yourselves for a battle of epic proportions between two titans. Feast upon their voices and revel in their words. This is Dueling Ogres.
Hello, Ogres, and welcome to episode 119. Thank you for joining us, as always, on this Roynish Monday evening. Earth date, July 10th, 2017. I'm your host, Ray Hitchcock, and this is my completely embarrassed co-host, Brandon Full. Say hello, Brandon.
Professional intro, as always, Remington.
Everything I do is perfect. Brandon.
I'm proud of you, buddy.
Thank you. And how many takes did that take? It was only 4.
4, yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I definitely think we've done worse with your intros before.
Exactly. There have been times where we can't even get through it.
Yeah.
And we just roll with it.
Or when you do the very terrible accents. I think you've done a couple where you've tried to do the accent.
I mean, so he definitely didn't want me to do the opener in an Irish accent when I was saying Roynish.
Right.
So,
which is probably a good decision because you could barely say the word Roynish anyway. I think when you start adding in different dialects, the whole thing just would have caught on fire. You would have Hindenburged that intro.
Yeah.
Straight into the French countryside.
Too soon.
Or where Hindenburg was.
Was it the French countryside?
No.
I had no idea. You looked off camera, and we have a guest today. We have a guest, the incomparable and indistinguishable Viscount Terry Ervin II.
Terry W Ervin II.
There's a W in there.
Yes.
Hi, Terry.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Pretty good.
Thank you for joining us once again, driving all the way down from Ohio's.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is, your third consecutive year? Yeah.
Third visit.
Yeah. The most consistently visiting guest that we have had.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you get the top spot because you've put in more work than anybody else.
Do you invite the other people back, or and they just say no?
See, we don't invite you anyway, Terry. You just say, "Hey, you want me to come down?"
And because I knew you did this on Mondays.
You say, "Hey, do you want me to come down and do another one?" We're like, "Yeah, Terry, that's a great idea." We're terrible at inviting people to do shows.
So, have you gotten a lot of, not work, but like, have you got into a lot of cons and interviews by having that sort of mentality? I mean, we joke, but obviously, like, you're, as one of our longtime listeners and somebody we've had on the show a lot, you're welcome anytime and we talk back and forth and all that. But you are proactive in when you want to come. You know what I mean? Like, you hit us up and we're like, hey, if I'm coming back again, I'm free between these dates kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is you just offer, say, yeah, I'd be willing to do that. And it doesn't put any pressure on you or anybody else. It's not like saying, man, I want to be there, or I'm not going to listen to your podcast again.
Right.
You know, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you do it because, I do it because I enjoy doing it. I think I listen to your podcast. I think it's kind of fun, and I think it's fun to be part of. So.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And the thing is, you know, it's like, with this summer, I've been doing a lot of stuff at libraries and you know, like presentations and like on panels and things. And what's happened is, since I've done a few of those, then people from the library start calling me and saying, hey, would you be interested in doing this? Hey, would you be interested in doing that? I'm waiting for bigger podcasts now to call me to, you know, and so then I'll leave you guys behind.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah, we'll go to the wayside as is the way of things. As you get more popular.
And then with my luck, what will happen, I'll look back and say, where those? Oh, they're up there.
I guess I have to call the Dueling Ogres again, now that they're popular.
You'll be calling our secretary.
Yeah.
Is that when you know you've made it, if you have a secretary?
I guess. Yeah. I could get behind that. When we have an editor, that way I don't have to be the one who does it. I think that's when we've made it. When I can hire an editor.
Yeah. I mean, you could hire an editor.
I could. That would mean I'd have to spend more money.
It's not my money.
That has been the truth behind this whole podcast.
I bring the thunder.
You bring the talent and the thunder, and I bring the deep
You
pockets.
bring mispronouncing Roynish.
The deep pockets and the love for technology. It's a fair trade-off, I think.
So, Terry, last time you were here on the show, you were talking about Thunderwells.
Yeah.
How has that gone since then? Because Thunderwells has since been published. We have copies here.
It's gone pretty good. It's an audio book, which I think is pretty cool, and it's in ebook and print. And it's one of the books that, like when I've gone to the libraries and stuff and have highlighted, it's probably one of the ones that people pick up. Part of it is because I do things in Ohio, and most of the story takes place in Ohio.
Yeah.
And so that makes a huge difference.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Because people will, yeah, people from Toledo, it's like, oh, I recognize that. And so they feel a connection to it. And that if you feel a connection to something, you're going to be more interested in it.
Yeah, in Thunderwell specifically, I noticed that there is a lot of discussion about Ohio. Like, it's naming cities through Ohio, and it's very centrally based.
Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. Are you familiar with a lot of that area? Like, is that where you got the ideas from?
Yeah, I grew
up
in Toledo, and that's where it starts. And it actually starts in Wildwood Metro Park. I did. I think I might have mentioned this previously. I don't know if it was here, but I did my Boy Scout Eagle Scout project at Wildwood, but that was many years ago. And so I went back with my daughter to see how it had changed, because I wanted to make sure things were accurate, and it had changed quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
But this way, it's accurate. It's not down to every single log where it is, but somebody who was familiar with the park would understand what I'm talking about. And then traveling down Interstate 75. And the other thing is Google Maps.
Yeah.
You can just click along and go along somewhere, and you can look at all the landscape and as you travel down the highway.
Yeah.
Which is kind of handy for me. Because some of the side roads, I've driven up and down there, but you can't remember that with great detail. And then I changed some of the detail. Like, there were houses that I picked, but I changed the color of the houses and stuff like that.
I
so
gotcha.
it's not gonna be...
So somebody can't go through an actual tour of Thunderwells and visit houses where they were blocked in by bandits and all that?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we should probably cancel that tour we were going to offer.
Okay.
Or you got to spray paint the houses ahead of time.
You're buying the spray paint.
I figured as much.
You could definitely. Do you want to give, I guess, a real quick rundown, if you could, of what Thunderwells is about? I know we've discussed it before, but
post-apocalyptic alien invasion, and it takes place. The story starts after the invasion's well underway, and it's about Jack, who's a college sophomore who's just trying to survive and get along. He's taken up residence, you could say, in a metro park, and most of the population is gone or destroyed, and what's left is feeding upon itself, trying to steal from each other, or they are cannibals. And then the aliens have deposited they're like alien creatures that have been bred to hunt humans and canines, and so they're the ones that can, if somebody's hiding in a cellar, they can root them out and things like because I thought about that. I thought, one of the most difficult things would be guerrilla warfare for an alien species to deal with. But if you can put something down that's going to root out all the humans for you ahead of time, your life is going to be that much easier.
Yeah.
And so that's why I thought that aliens would be smart enough to at least think of something like that. I mean, in the book, they had used, they had tried a plague, but it didn't work as well as they had thought. But then they had used like tsunamis to take out the coast, because I thought, how many people in the world live on the coasts?
Yeah.
You wipe out the coasts, you're going to wipe out a huge section of the population. And then they just use, like rocks from space, send them down, use the kinetic energy to take out cities, military bases, smaller targets.
Yeah, railgun style.
Yeah,
almost,
yeah. And then you have electromagnetic pulses that will take out all of the electronics, and there you go. You're kind of stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that doesn't leave a whole lot of population left to do guerrilla warfare.
No, and that was their point.
Yeah, and I mean that's a valid. I remember there was a series that was on the Science Channel or maybe History or something like that, and it was a a what if scenario if aliens invaded, and it talks about the time between or the time after and how many weeks, 4 weeks after first contact, 2 years after first contact, this and that and the other. And guerrilla warfare was one of the things that gave the humans an edge
or a hope.
Yeah.
I've seen that. I've seen, well, maybe not the exact one, but I've seen several of those where they talk about how they believe an invasion would go.
Right. So I think it's very interesting to have I haven't read Thunderwells yet. Brandon did. I lent him my copy. Mm-hmm. But is it a genetically engineered to hunt humans?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they don't hunt deer. They don't hunt cats.
Are you talking
squirrel.
about the
dozers
like kind of,
and the crawlers?
Yeah.
The crawlers are like giant centipede type, kind of a cross between a centipede and a millipede, and they get about
a thousandpede.
They get about 15 feet long, and their skin, their outer shell is very difficult to get through, to penetrate, and so they're hard to kill. And then the dozers are about the size of a grizzly bear, and they've got claws that can tear through concrete and get at people. And so they're bred to just hunt, to crave or whatever humans, and so that's what they spend their time doing. And so people spend their time trying to survive, scavenge, do whatever, but then they've got to always be looking over their shoulder.
Yeah, and that's an incredible answer to the guerrilla warfare predicament that an alien would come across. And you would think that an alien race that was advanced enough for space travel would have the ability to just bioengineer a predator for the prey. And
I'm sure that real aliens would come up with something better. But
but you're only human.
Yeah. But the thing is, I always wondered when I thought about this, I said, when I started thinking about how could humans even fight back? I mean, what are we going to do if they just sit up in orbit and bombard us?
Yeah.
What really are we going to do? Mm-hmm. I mean, in Independence Day, they went up and they put a virus in their computer, which they made at least reasonable. I mean, it wasn't, it's kind of a stretch, but for humanity to win in anything is kind of a stretch.
Yeah.
And so then I came across Thunderwells in some of my research, and I said, that's an answer.
Yeah.
To humans' dilemma.
I really loved the description of the dozer specifically, because the book opens not with a dozer, but Shredder was the other one,
crawler.
Right? A crawler. Opens with him being chased by a crawler, correctly? Mm-hmm. Or correctly?
Correctly.
You answered correctly.
Yeah, perfect.
Ding, ding, ding.
But yeah, the description of the dozers really stood out to me, and I think you painted a really good picture of those, because I could picture them very well in my head. And just how scary they would be to actually be chasing you.
And one thing that would be interesting for like you and Remington is from the description that you read and from what he reads, I bet your pictures are going to be a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I gave one of the things I like to do, and I read this learned about it from reading horror authors. They had always said you can never match a reader's imagination. So don't try and give something with so much detail that you limit that imagination. You give them enough to run with, and they're going to create it. The reader's going to create it themselves. And so I have an image of it, but I bet your image is a little bit different, and yours would be different too.
Yeah.
But it's enough that if you drew it, you could show it to Brandon, and he would say, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, I think, with video games and as like a storytelling or movies as storytelling as opposed to reading, because they show you what those creatures look like.
Yeah.
And one of the things about the horror aspect is when you don't get that full picture, your imagination is trying to engage. What is that going to look like? What do I think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a scene in the book specifically where the main character is, I don't remember exactly what he's doing, but he's moving through his home forest, and he sees a couple that's walking down the interstate. Mm-hmm. And then a couple miles later, he sees a dozer that's just slowly following them. Mm-hmm. And I love that description, because the character's talking about how like he knows he could help them in some way.
Yeah.
That that thing's going to hunt them down. They don't know it's following them, but he has more pressing issues.
Well, he only has a 22 rifle.
Yeah.
That's not going to help him. I mean, he realizes he could get it to chase him. He's a very pragmatic character.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of my other characters, Kra in the science fiction series, The Cracked War Chronicles, would have acted differently, and Krish or Flankhawk from the fantasy series would have acted differently. Jack is more pragmatic. He's like, I could try and take it off their trail, but the guy was a jerk anyways. I mean, if you remember, he was the woman he was traveling with, he was abusive and loud. And he joked about because he was wearing those cat's eye glasses.
Yeah.
And I thought that was important because some things people don't understand is that when you're in a situation like that, if your glasses break, you aren't going to go to an optometrist in a post-apocalyptic world. You're going to pick up whatever you can find and whatever you can use. Yeah. But he was not a very nice person to begin with because remember, he was looking for somebody to help him take care of his park.
Yeah.
Because he was only one person after Luther had passed away. So he said, yeah, I could try and help him, but that's going to put me at serious risk. There's a good chance I'd die.
Yeah.
They're on their own.
Yeah, and pragmatic, I think, is a good word to describe him. It's almost like you're a writer or something. You picked a good word for him. But yeah, he almost comes off as a little heartless. And I don't think that the character, at least from my interpretation of reading it, the character himself, would you say he's heartless? I mean, he just seems like a survivalist more than anything else. I mean, he goes out of his way, not to get really into spoilery territory, but he goes out of his way to help when he finds out that there is a resistance to help. Right.
And the thing is, he's pragmatic and he thinks humanity's doomed. Right. He's just going to be the last one standing. Is his idea. He says, I'm going to hold out as long as I can. Yeah. Maybe things will work out, maybe they won't. But that's his attitude. And the thing is, he has all of his stuff buried and hidden and things like that. And he knows this stuff is going to have to last him a lifetime. Yeah. There are nobody's going to be making any new shotguns or shotgun shells or very limited. Yeah. And he's going to have to grow his own food. He talks about that and hunting and things like that. But he's looking at it the long term, and so he's not going, he and Lucy at the beginning, she wants to get some medications from him, some antibiotics. Right. And he's like, nah, I might need him. Yeah. Which is true. And he thinks about stuff like, his concern, like he's always worried about brushing his teeth because he's trying to imagine if my tooth goes bad, how am I going to pull my own tooth? Yeah. That's going to be pretty hard to do because he's thinking right now he doesn't have Luther. He's by himself. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very interesting look into just a single person's psyche when they think that at a point like this, yeah, there are other people around, but really it's you against the entire world. I mean, and that's where that pragmatist mentality comes in, where it's you have to be prepared to look out for you.
In Jack's case, it is almost him versus the entire world, at least at the beginning of the book. Yeah.
And because everybody is either in isolation, they're either alone or they're in small groups, and they're looking out for themselves. Yeah. There is no, we're uniting together to fight the aliens. It's more like we're scavenging for what we can, and we're trying to dodge these alien creatures that are just picking us off left and right. And then it gets worse when they bring down the drones that start hunting people. Yeah. So that it gets elevated.
And one of the things I do also enjoy about your world is that Dueling Ogres has managed to last in some form or another.
Yes.
In the world.
Yes.
That was kind of neat. I thought it was funny.
Oh, no, I loved it.
Yeah. There's for those of you who haven't read Thunder Wells yet, Terry was very gracious to write in a slight nod to Dueling Ogres in the pages. So now we are immortalized in print.
Yes.
Yes.
So what do you think happened to Remington and I at the beginning of this? If you were to postulate,
are we Virginia?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's postulate.
You don't have any military bases around here.
No.
But there's
an ROTC base with there's a small military base with tanks and stuff.
Okay, it probably would have been targeted. Where's it at? I mean,
probably about 10 miles from here.
Okay, so there's probably going to be a crater impact. So a lot of the buildings and stuff would have been shaken and stuff. So a lot of windows cracked. Big population. Do you guys have firearms?
I do.
He does. I don't.
Okay. You've got a much better shot than him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No
Get that
pun
smug
intended.
look off your face.
But, and a lot of it would just depend on your willingness to survive.
Yeah.
Okay. What you're willing to do
Mhm.
and how proactive you are. If you realize, see, a lot of people, I think, in a crisis like that, when all the communication and stuff is shut off, they're going to wait for the government to come.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a couple days, and then the riots are going to happen. And people are going to go to the grocery stores and the Walmarts and the other thing. And that was one of the pragmatic things that Jack had done. He went to the like the animal hospitals and stuff. He didn't go for the drugs. He wasn't thinking about that. He's like, dog and cat food. I'm going to get a boatload of that. I can eat it and supplement with everything else. I'm not going to those stores where it's dangerous and people, because this is up in Toledo.
Yeah.
And it's, when you have a lot of people, like, it's going to be dangerous.
Yeah.
And if you have people that you can count on, family, friends, things like that, that would make a difference too. But really, in the big scheme of things, there is probably down about when the novel started, probably less than 15% of the population was still alive.
Yeah.
So we'd be gone.
So you could just take your odds then, and if you're a real survivalist and you have some skills, you're gonna up your chances. But then there was just random luck, and that's what Jack had talked about. He says it doesn't matter how skilled you are, how brilliant you are with a gun. If one of those dozers gets on your trail, you're done.
Yeah.
And so you could have as much preparation as you want. Your number could come up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the truth of it.
The thing I like.
Sorry. That's the truth, really, of even just normal everyday, though. Your number could come up at any point.
Mm-hmm.
So all you can really do when shit hits the fan, as it were, is to just keep your nose to the grindstone, do what you need to do to survive, and hope for the best.
Yeah, it'd be very simply like walking around, going out your neighborhood, knowing that there's probably a grizzly bear or two wandering around Vienna.
Right. Yep.
And you
just
can't
have to
stop them. And if they decide they're going to try and eat you today, you're probably not going to fare so well.
That's right.
So about the middle of the book, and again, I'm going to keep as spoiler free as possible. Jack discovers from Lucia a weakness that the Dozers have. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Was there a certain reason that you chose what you did as their weakness? Like, there's a man-made thing that's like a poison to these things. That when I read it kind of gave me a chuckle. It's like, that seems really random, but also makes sense because it felt like it was something chosen that wouldn't be super hard to find in the world, but also something that a lot of people aren't going to have.
Yeah, and I just thought that somebody who was making their own little arrows and stuff would use that and would notice it. And what it is it's a major irritant. So it gives you a chance at least to try and get away.
Yeah.
And so I had remembered from a series of novels I had read by Harry Turtledove where ginger, the little spice, was a very addictive drug to the aliens. For us, it's just a spice,
Yeah.
But for them, it was something like heroin, something very addictive that they just craved and craved and craved, and they were hooked. And so, you think about different alien biologies, what is going to be
harmful or
dangerous to them, where it's nothing for us. Even like there was there was the one science fiction show, and my wife would kill me because she really likes it. It's the one, but where a slave race of aliens had gotten away and they came and they landed like in Los Angeles.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Kevin will know, I bet.
But they drink like spoiled milk is like wonderful for them, but it smells bad. But then salt water is
deadly to them.
It's like pouring battery acid on yourself.
Yeah.
So different chemistries are different things. Just like some animals here, certain medicines you can take, but if your dog takes it, your cat takes it, it'll kill them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we can eat and process chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Dogs and cats both are not. Dogs are especially
more vulnerable.
More vulnerable, right. Cats can have a little bit, but you don't want to feed them chocolate on a regular basis. Pork products for a dog. Not good for a dog in the long term.
Pork, really?
Yeah.
No, it's not good for people in the long term
Well,
either.
yeah. Yeah, but they're a little more susceptible to it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I think it shuts down their kidneys or something like that. It's bad for their intestinal tract.
Well, pork is also, again, bad for humans' intestinal tract.
Says you, I've had no problems.
If it comes in
I
a
poop
can that says
regularly.
Spam, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's okay then.
Oh, God. I meant to, totally off here, but I was on your blog, and you had posted that was like Breakfast of Champions or something.
Writing champions.
Writing Champions, and it was a box of Captain Crunch Crunch Berries and a can of Spam.
And instant coffee.
And instant coffee. Do you really eat Crunch Berries and Spam for breakfast?
Yes, I have.
Do you really drink instant coffee?
Yes. And here's why. First off, Spam, I just kind of like it.
I like Spam too.
And my wife will buy me, I used to get for every vacation just for myself when I started teaching and stuff, like for Christmas and for spring break, Easter,
Yeah.
and for summer, I would just buy one box of Captain Crunch and Crunch Berries because when I was a kid, we would always get the boring cereals.
Yeah.
And so that was a treat for us when we would get something like that.
Yeah.
You know, they would have like Boo Berry around Halloween or something.
Right,
yeah.
And so I figure I'm an adult. On occasion, I can get it for myself too. And then instant coffee. I used to drink a lot more coffee, but then I had like the pre-hypertension, and so I cut back on caffeine to help with that. So I don't believe in those little Keurig things. That's just too expensive. And to make a 1 cup of coffee, and so it's just instant coffee. And people laugh. My taste buds aren't all, you can tell by Spam maybe and stuff, aren't all that acute.
Yeah.
And so instant coffee with me is fine.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm in the same boat. I don't drink a whole pot of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I just wouldn't be able to. You used to be able to. You
multiple pots.
He still could if he didn't cut back his caffeine intake. So.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I could ever get myself to a point where I'd actively pursue instant coffee.
Well, it's fast.
Yeah.
And it's easy. And so that's what counts most sometimes.
That's true.
How do you eat the Spam?
Fry it.
No, I mean just physically, how can you stomach the Spam?
we here's how we usually have our Spam nowadays. Because Ginger and I both like Spam. She loves processed meats. Hot dogs, Spam, anything that, doesn't resemble actual meat anymore is A-okay in her book. Has tons and tons of nitrates,
Mm-hmm.
Salt's delicious. But we will take naan bread. That
Like
will get,
flat Indian bread?
yeah,
Okay.
from Aldi, and hummus. We'll get some hummus. She likes the red pepper hummus. And so I'll fry up the Spam in usual fried Spam way. And then I will put the naan bread and fry it and just get a good crisp on it. And then cut it into, pizza style. Cut it pizza style. And then we'll spread hummus on it and eat Spam. And that's how we eat our Spam.
A lot of times I've started to broil it. It's just faster that way.
Oh, yeah.
You just put it on a little...
Does it change the...
It does change the flavor a little bit, and it's not bad. And my daughters tend to like it a little bit better that way.
Oh, really?
My wife just tolerates it. But like a lot of times I'll cook for dinner, I'll cook a breakfast. We'll have waffles or and eggs and Spam. So it's not something we do very often. Spam, but like I'll get a couple cans when it's on sale, and then they'll get used up in about 2 or 3 months.
So what do you think about corned beef?
It's okay. I don't eat it very often, but I could.
See, she's not a fan of corned beef, oddly enough, but I love that with hash browns and eggs and just mix it all into a big pile. Oh, man.
Did you ever see the Gilligan's Island with the corned beef where he had the lion? The lion came and all he had was corned beef and he was feeding the lion. And then Gilligan was thinking, what happens when I run out of the corned beef?
I don't remember that.
Okay, well, I just thought of that when you mentioned corned beef. You know where your mind goes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I could just see you now, like...
Tossing Spam to Ginger. What happens when I run out?
Okay.
So are you guys going to try the Breakfast of Champions someday? It'll be great for your kid.
I think I might actually. I mean, I love Captain Crunch. I try to eat. I don't eat super healthy, but I eat cereal all the time. I eat cereal for breakfast. And I eat a bowl of cereal before bed. So I try to get healthy cereal to balance it out. Because I mean, I could eat like Frosted Flakes and Crunch Berries all the time. But I think I will. And actually, legitimately, and this isn't a lie, I'm going to swing by the dollar store and buy a can of Spam on the way home and fry it tonight.
Okay.
Because I'm curious. I feel like I'm being too judgmental about Spam. It's been years since I've had it.
Yeah.
You guys are both learned men. I would say Terry's a bit more learned, but you guys are both learned men.
I've just got a few years on you. You'll catch up.
So under your recommendation, I'm going to buy some Spam and
Just
fry it
wait till
tonight.
it comes on sale, and then so you don't.
See, I feel like it's already kind of a gamble to buy Spam and then to wait until it's sale Spam.
Okay.
It's a little bit
It
more.
lasts a long time on the shelf life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but so then why do they put it on sale? if it's starting to get to the end.
product because it doesn't always move quickly.
Yeah.
But whatever you do, don't get the low sodium.
Yeah. You want that salt. You want that nitrate.
It's kind of like if you ever had like no sodium ketchup or something.
Yeah,
It's nasty.
yeah.
yeah.
Or diet soda.
What's your? That's all I drink.
Yeah.
What is your opinion, real quick, before we get back to your books? Vienna sausages, yes or no?
They're okay, but I'm not super big on them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, like for lunch at school, I will always eat the same thing, and you'll laugh at my lunches, but I will have yogurt that I put raisins in,
Yeah.
and then I'll eat a cup of Jell-O with fruit in it. That's my lunch.
That's it?
That's my
Yeah, that's what I'm
lunches.
thinking too.
Wow.
Because it's fast to pack and it's easy, and sometimes I'll put a piece of fruit in or something.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
you know, you don't always have a lot of time, or you want to use your time efficiently at school. So I'll go down. There's always a group of same group of teachers. We'll sit around the table, eat for about 15, 20 minutes at most, and we'll go get ready for the next classes. And it's fast and easy. I used to eat raisins and banana chips and sunflower seeds too. But that was when that had a lot of salt and sodium.
Yeah.
I put a few peanuts in it, and so I could eat that quickly too. But then that had the salt, which with that caffeine with the coffee I was cutting back on years ago.
Yeah.
So I will just eat the same thing for lunch continuously. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Do you ever have days where you're just like, if I have one more bite of this yogurt,
Nope.
do you don't just ever get sick of it?
Nope.
Yeah, I am when it comes to my foods, I can't eat the same thing over and over again. I have to have a little variety.
Then you guys would. I have to say. Then you asked if you guys would survive.
Yeah.
You're dead. You would have.
I mean, if the variety is the difference between eating a cat or eating a dog, I mean, I'm still okay. That's still variety.
Twas Spam that killed the beast.
Yeah, because there was. I say that, but at the same time, there are staples that we buy every week when we go grocery shopping. And one of them there for a good long time was Spam. And we'd have Spam every week, which probably in the long term is not a good thing. But even that,
Even in the short term, I don't think it's a good thing.
even that I got tired of, after a couple months of eating that and, once a week. And I was just like, that's just too much salt. I just need to. But that's really what it was. It was all the nitrates that I was intaking.
Mm-hmm.
No, you guys have the wrong attitude on it. Did you guys ever used to watch Married with Children?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. There is the one episode with Jim Jupiter. He was the healthiest man in Chicago. And he came over to somehow Peg won something.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, he was real healthy and stuff like that. And then he started eating all the other stuff that Al and the family ate, Peg ate.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And like within a couple weeks, he was fat and unhealthy. And then he died.
Yeah.
And then Al, of course, explained it. He thinned himself out of the herd because, he was eating all healthy and stuff. He just couldn't take it like real Americans.
That's right.
We eat crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're better. We're healthier. We're going to make it in the long run. And he didn't. That was he did a little soliloquy at the end, and he equivalated like to roaches.
Yeah.
I think Married with Children is such an underrated show.
I don't even know if it's underrated. It's just a sad thing that it went away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they ran their course. After they do about 12 seasons or something.
Yeah.
There was
it
really
a
went
lot.
on that long.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And the thing is, people say that it was a terrible show, but the thing is, it made fun of, like, Kelly was kind of a slutty girl.
Yeah.
And it made fun of how terrible that was.
Yeah.
Whereas now a lot of shows, that's the in thing to be. And
Yeah.
they poked fun at it. Al had a terrible job, but the thing was, he was always, in the end, he was always loyal to his family.
Mhm.
You know, no
Yeah.
matter what, he was always ended up being loyal to his family.
Well, and he had,
And
I know
Bud
he
was
had,
a smart one, and you know, he's the one that they kind of make fun of the most.
yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, he was smarmy and
Yeah.
you know, did things that
He
were
was your
less
typical
than-
teenager trying to get a little action, really.
Yeah. Well, for the first, and even, I mean, that even carried through the rest of the seasons where he was very frequently trying to find a
See,
mate.
And the thing is, I don't think that Married
Find
with
a
Children
mate,
would
find
make
a
it.
mate.
Would make it now.
No. Well, I think people consider it misogynistic, but it's like misogynistic or closed-minded in the same way that All in the Family was. Like, you don't look at Archie Bunker and think like, that's who I want to be like. You look at Archie Bunker and laugh at his racisms.
But you have to look at the time too. That was all in the Family, or all those shows back then. You know, with Archie Bunker and they had, you know, there was. You can't judge television programs by their time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, the culture was different. People were different. Just like, you know, people have been talking about the old Batman. Okay,
Yeah.
and you watch it now, and you're like, how could anybody even watch this seriously?
Yeah.
But back then, it was, people liked it. They enjoyed it. They knew it was a little bit campy, but it was something that, you know, I liked it as a kid. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't understand, like, when, you know, they had the people sticking their head out of when they're climbing
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that it was those were cameos of famous people because I was a kid. I didn't. So it was written on different levels for
Yeah.
different audiences. But nowadays, if that came out like on Nickelodeon or what, it would go nowhere.
Mhm.
Just like the old Underdog movies or cartoons.
Yeah.
You know, I guess they might but if it's, you know, for nostalgia, people watch it, but it wouldn't make it if it.
Well, it's like the when they did the CGI Bullwinkle movie, and yeah, I mean that was an incredibly popular series back when it was the
Mhm.
cartoon show when it was, and then they made a CGI movie of it with Jason Alexander as Boris, and I don't even remember who played Natasha.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look at me like you're.
I have
complete-
no idea.
You have no idea what I'm talking
No.
about.
I vaguely remember, but I didn't go see it.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point. That's the funny thing to me is when somebody somewhere in a seat made of fine Corinthian leather decides that it's going to be a good idea to rehash Bullwinkle.
And the thing is, these hot movies that are out now, you know, the Wonder Woman movie or the new Spider-Man movie, I tell my daughters, I say, someday this is going to be the late show
Yeah,
that you're watching,
Yeah.
and you're going to be telling your kids how great it was, and they're going to be like,
yeah.
okay.
Married with Children went 11 seasons.
Okay.
So
Well, like you remember watching Boy Meets World in
Yeah.
the 90s, the sitcom?
yeah,
I tried to get my daughter to watch it, and I was like, oh, this show is so funny. You got to sit down and watch it. No interest at all. She looked at me like I would look at my parents trying to get me to watch, you know, something from the 60s.
yeah,
And you're just, times are different. Humor, attitudes were different. You know, Edith Bunker,
Mhm.
you know, she was a stay-at-home
Wife.
mom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wife, you know, and she was happy with that. Nowadays, most of the shows, you know, both parents are working because that's just the reality that it is.
yeah.
Okay, so with Thunderwells and then moving forward into the books that you have published, and then we'll get into the one you're working on now here in a minute. What's something that surprised you about reception to your books? Has there been anything either for good or bad? Has there been a book that's come out that people have really latched on to something you didn't expect or something you heard negative feedback on?
And I talked about this before, but in Flankhawk, when they end up fighting and he ends up killing some of the mermaids,
Mm-hmm.
people
Yeah.
get a little upset about that.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just, you'd have to read the book to understand the situation. But he's
They were
trying to get
backtalking
across
him.
the ocean. they're trying to get across basically it was the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
And the goddess of the ocean was trying to stop them. So she summoned the creatures that she could, the serpent and stuff to try and so what did he have to do to survive? He had to kill some mermaids.
Yeah. So people have been upset about that?
Well, I've had people have commented they thought it was wrong.
Are they attacking him
No,
or are they just hanging out and he's just...
No, they're attacking him.
Oh,
They're
okay.
like lassoing and pulling people off the
I
ship.
mean, as D&D players who've fought their way through mermaids and Wanti and what are Sahagween, yeah. I have no problem killing sea folk.
Yeah. but it also goes to the point that on two sides of a war, the other side thinks they're right and good too.
Yeah.
I don't think very many of them are sitting there saying, "Oh, we are dastardly."
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I don't think most people wake up in the morning. Now there are some people who do, but most people don't wake up in the morning to say, "Boy, what kind of a jerk can I be all day today?"
Right. Yeah.
Well, and really, if you go by the multiple dimension theory, somewhere there's a merman Terry who's sitting down giving an interview under the sea with us, talking about how people were upset that his main character killed some humans.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. Yep.
So there's a little bit of that for you, Remington.
I'm glad you could work some multiverse quantum physics in here.
That would be like an alternate concurrent world, which ties in with my next novel that I was working on.
Oh, segue.
So what is going on with your new novel? I know you've kind of told Remington a little bit about it off air, but do you want to tell us what you can about the book you're working on now?
Sure.
It's called The Mermaid Killer.
Yeah.
Working title.
8-part series. A lot of death.
A lot of mermaid death.
Yeah, because you know how dolphins used to get caught in nets and people would get upset. Same thing with mermaids. People would get upset if they got caught in nets with tunas.
Yeah.
It is it's what we were talking about. It'd be termed a LitRPG,
Right.
which means it's based loosely on either that genre. It's actually a subgenre of fantasy and science fiction.
Right.
And so it based loosely where people are involved or become characters, or they're pulled into the world, either like a video game or an online game of some type, or role-playing, a tabletop role-playing game.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this one happens to be a tabletop role-playing game where a group of characters get drawn into the game and they're stuck there and they aren't really ready for it or anticipating it.
Are they transported into who their characters are?
Yes.
Okay.
So whatever characters they had, that's who they are.
Okay. So I'm role playing a dwarven whatever. When I'm transported into the world, I'm transported full on into that body.
Correct. And so, and the thing is, what I added as a twist was some people from a sociology class had gone because they had to go to write a paper, meet with different groups that they don't associate with and see how their subculture is. And so a couple of the people that got in the game that ended up getting transported there had no idea. So they don't even know about the world, really what's going on.
Oh, okay.
And then there's like a junior high kid who likes gaming and stuff like that. And he thinks it's kind of cool because he feels like his life sucks.
Yeah.
So this is, these guys want to get back. And he's like, I'll help you get back. But this is kind of, my life sucks. I'll stay here, but I'll help you.
Yeah.
And then things like that. And so it's set up that way. And the thing is, what I wanted to make sure is it's not just those people in a different body. Like one of the guys that ends up being their leader, Ron, who he's like playing a warrior druid combination.
Yeah.
He was like a grad student, math student, mathematician.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a pretty high intelligence score, but in real life, his intelligence score was higher.
Yeah.
And so he like figures this out, saying he's trying to figure something out. He actually has to scratch stuff in the dirt where he could do it in his head before.
Ah.
So he realized. So these people, they're not just themselves with all those. They also have those limitations.
Okay,
Yeah.
so all of their stats in the game actually mirror once they go into the world itself.
So like they were going to try and go win. They needed some coins, and so there was a place gambling, and he was going to go try and count cards, but he just can't do it like he did before.
Yeah.
He just doesn't. So that would be an example. You know, they always talk about the strength and things like that is different, but the other things come into play too.
Yeah.
So you said that there's a group of students who haven't played the game before who are pulled in also?
Yes.
Are you going to use them, or was your intention to use them kind of as a proxy for readers who might not be familiar with
Yes.
fantasy terms,
Yeah.
to kind of use those characters for somebody to explain?
Because I made
like,
up the game, so it's not Dungeons and Dragons, or it's not any online fantasy game or
Right.
anything like that. So, but you know, they're all kind of similar.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, and so you're going along the right line. It's a common tool to introduce people,
Mhm.
readers, to the world itself. And the other thing is, it allows you to poke fun at the world. The world, you know, it's like, you know how they create games for game balance, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, in video games, you can, you know, just whip out your, you know, gun and you've got all, you know, just shoot something and you've got more ammunition than you could ever carry. And
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, you know, this has the same thing. It kind of makes fun of, you know, for game balance or the rules.
Then you
But
have a
in real
bag
life,
of holding.
this wouldn't really happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but that's just the way that world is. And so the mathematician guy, Ron, he calls it, they're in an alternate concurrent world, or aberrant concurrent world.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's different. And he kind of develops that, what they kind of decide what's happened as they go along. So, you know, they're trying to talk about parallel universes. And this is just all part of the side story, as they're trying to survive, and they try and figure out how are we ever going to get back. Because they're not even sure up until the end of the book why they're even there.
Yeah.
Is this a hostile world? Like, is this kind of a D&D proper sort of world with cities and towns and main roads and guards, or is this just a straight up hostile, dropped in the wilderness, survive?
Well, they start out, they're semi in the wilderness. They're in the game that was set up. They're traveling with a caravan towards a city, and they were traveling there with them because having more people together is numbers, is
Yeah.
protection.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course they get attacked. The caravan does, and the story takes off from there.
Okay.
So one real quick question.
Sure.
And then I want to circle back around and ask a more in-depth question. On the instance of the caravan getting attacked and stuff, when you, and if it's going to spoil anything, then don't tell me, but when you die
does the
in
book
the
end?
game, do you die in real life?
They don't really know that.
Okay.
Okay. It's told in third person point of view. Mostly it follows around a guy named Glenn, whose
Okay.
character's name is Jax. And it's really funny because they think of each other as their real names.
Yeah.
But when they actually speak the name in the world, they say the character's name.
Oh, okay.
So he'll be thinking.
So it's almost a forced character, or a forced in-game mentality.
Mhm. So he'll be thinking of Steffi, but her name is her real name in there, and she picked Marigold.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's because she picked an elven character and
Yeah.
things, and so that was just kind of something that got forced into it to make it realize that it's the world. They're not really fully themselves. They have a lot of their memories and things, but they are those other characters too.
Yeah.
And the guy's running around as a gnome. You know, people think gnomes are cute and they trust him and stuff like. So he kind of gets away with stuff, but he's a short little guy running around, and he thinks it really sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because it does.
Yeah.
You know.
So my bigger question then is, I think we've even talked about it before. We talked about it off camera, but we've talked about on before that
Mhm.
you have played tabletop RPGs
Yep.
in the
For
past
years.
for years.
Mhm.
How long has it been since you've played one? Like, was there this period where you had to just really delve back into just kind of the RPG thing and refresh your memory on stuff, or do you still play on occasion with a group of people?
Yeah,
or-
I still play on occasion with a group of people, that I met in college.
Yeah.
We played some there, and so then it's an excuse for us to get together every 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. Okay.
And
So
so,
you still have-
we do game and we'll play Dungeons and Dragons, or we've played other, board games and stuff on occasion, things like that too.
Right. Okay.
But it's yeah. And so one of the things was I was able to write the book is probably the fastest first draft I've ever written.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed that but
it's something that I had done before, and it's a different story structure than writing science fiction. Takes a lot longer. I'm out there mapping distances between stars and star systems.
Yeah.
And then I have to convert it to travel. And then sometimes they don't always tell you how far, so you got to triangulate to figure out, and so I try to make that kind of stuff accurate, but all that stuff takes time.
Yeah.
And so I write those in a much slower manner because I want that consistency.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I did notice with Thunderwell specifically too, you put a lot of accuracy into your books.
Mm-hmm.
What is about that is important to you? Like, why is it important to you that you've
because you don't want a reader to look at it and say, that doesn't make sense, that's not real, that's not right. You see, when you write a novel, whether any type of novel, but especially I guess you look at with fantasy and science fiction, they're willing to suspend their disbelief.
Yeah.
But they're only, an apocalyptic alien invasion. They're suspending belief that this is what's happened.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you start getting things wrong, just regular things wrong, then they start to get a little annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if I was talking about somebody driving a Jeep, but then I had it as an all-electric vehicle,
mm-hmm.
okay, they'd say, that's not real.
Yeah.
And then they start calling other things into question because they're trusting you on a lot of stuff to be accurate and true, and especially with science fiction.
Do you think people are more willing to concede larger points like aliens attacked than a smaller point?
Well, you have, but what it is stuff that they know that should be true. Like if Jack has his shotgun, if he is shooting these aliens, 300 or 400 yards away with his bird shot,
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they're going to say no way, and they're not going to believe anything else.
Yeah, for anybody who knows anything about using birdshot at that
Mm-hmm.
distance.
Yeah, because that all sounds fine.
Yeah, that worked. I could tell by Brandon's lack of a reaction
Mm-hmm.
that he didn't realize that.
That's
that
birdshot. Birds are far away. It makes sense.
But no, that wouldn't have bothered you. But Remington would have been reading it and saying, so then you're going to start calling a lot of other things into question.
It puts the subliminal. It puts the author into a subliminal, but it puts in the reader's mind. It puts the author into a loop of they're subliminally questioning everything that he's actually telling them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something that's glaring enough for the reader to pick up on.
Right.
So
because I remember when you had commented when you read it, you said there's a lot of different things about calibers and rifles and guns and things like that. And so if you're kind of familiar with firearms, it's pretty straight for the course.
Yeah.
But if you're not, then I tried to keep it as basic as I could so you could understand the little 22 goes pop, pop, pop.
Yeah.
And, so.
Yeah, I can see.
Because she called it Lucia calls it his little carnival gun.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is.
That's a really funny thing because firearms is definitely one of the things because like your family is no stranger to firearms.
No, not at all.
But you are not super familiar with a lot of firearms.
No.
And
I know nothing about them.
I'm not as familiar as some people in my family, but I'm a lot more familiar than you are with them.
Mm-hmm.
So in Flankhawk, there was a lot of reference to older firearms and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of picked up on that. I don't know a whole lot about some of those older firearms that you talked about.
But the thing is, if you trust the writer, then you're going to say, okay, that makes sense. And that's reasonable. I believe that it could do that.
Yeah.
And just like with the vehicles in Thunderwell, some of them broke down. They didn't have the same vehicles for the entire trip.
Yeah.
Because, the water pumps go out and people shoot out tires and things like that, So that's why, the vehicles that they started with weren't the ones that they ended with.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of realism that runs through your books. Like you can tell that you focus a lot on that, not just that accuracy, but making it seem plausible You know what I mean? Like making it
lived
seem
in and realistic.
yeah, like making it seem plausible outside of the
You want to make it
fantastical
sound,
stuff happening.
You want it to sound plausible, or at least say, "I'll buy that.
Yeah.
I'll buy that." But when you start to have too many mistakes in there that are unforced errors, for example, you say, and it's just because you were lazy or you got poor information, you didn't take the time to research it. Like in some of the earlier versions, there was edited in my book Navy SEALs. It's only mentioned like about 3 times,
Yeah.
but 1 or 2 of the times it wasn't capitalized, and now it's fixed. SEALS
Yeah.
versus SEA. When it's read, it comes out the same, but it wasn't. All of them weren't caught in editing.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so somebody who's in the military is probably going to look at that and say, "Well, that guy's kind of a dope."
Right. Yeah.
But it was, but in the end, no book is perfect. But so
Sure,
that would be
yeah.
an example of an unforced error. It's corrected, but somebody who got like a couple of the first copies of the books that were out,
Yeah.
that's going to be in there.
They're going to read that and just immediately throw it down.
But then somebody who doesn't know about the military, it's not going to affect them at all.
Yeah. With you bringing up the editing as far as that goes, is there anything in any of your books that you've edited out that you regret or had edited out and wished once you saw the final product, like, I really wish I would have left that scene in?
No.
No.
Usually, if you trust your editor and you trust your publisher, they're good people who are going to help you bring the book together better. They're going to make it better. So you kind of have to trust them. And the other thing is, they also said, my publisher said, and works through the editors, he hires freelance editors,
Yeah.
that I can keep anything in the end that I want. But remember, it's a reflection of me, and he hires people who are good, and they point out stuff and say, maybe you want to consider this, maybe you want to consider that. You can also have beta readers, other people read it, and if you have 2 or 3 people say, I'm not so sure about this,
Yeah.
then it's something you really have to revisit. In the end, it's your own vision, but you have to take other people's advice. Some people want to self-publish because they can control everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's good, but sometimes it's not so good.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about there. There have been times where I've written, I don't do a lot of writing anymore, but when I did, I would have other people read it just to give me the feedback. And that's one of the hardest things, because if you take it to a friend, if they're an okay friend, then they don't want to tell you that there's anything wrong, even if there is something.
Yep. And it's hard to find the right people to do that.
And if there is a really good friend, then they'll tell you exactly what's wrong, which is a good thing.
And that you take it as a good thing is something, because there's some authors that I've known early in their careers who, when somebody tells them that there's something wrong, this needs to be fixed, this is a concern, they take it as an insult upon them. No, the individual, it's not you. They're commenting about your writing, your product, your story, your article, your essay. They're not criticizing you as a person. They're criticizing you as the product. And you want them to, you don't have to agree with them. But you asked them for an honest opinion. They're going to give you that honest opinion. And you have to put your big boy pants on and just suck it up and say, you know what, you might be right. Or at least smile and nod and not try and defend yourself and say, yeah, but. You asked them for their opinion. They're giving it to you. What you do with it is your choice. I guess you can go cry in the corner, call them names.
That's one of the things that as the editor of articles on the website, I've had the articles that have been written not by us 3. I've had those people ask me this and that, or I have to go in and completely look at a paragraph and say, okay, here's your structure problem. There's a structure problem. And the best advice that I feel that I have given to anybody is take the paragraph that's a trouble paragraph, read it, but don't read it silently, read it out loud, and try to get through it at a good clip. If you can't get through it at a good clip without then you have a writing problem. You have a flow problem that needs to be corrected. Because reading an article on the internet is as much of an art form as it is anything. Because if somebody is reading an article about something that they mildly care about on the internet, it's probably on their phone or their tablet in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
And you want it to be concise enough, but you want it to also have a really good flow, because they're only going to be there for 20 seconds, 3 minutes until they're done reading it. And if it runs too long, then they're going to put it down.
Yeah, 3,000 word articles. You better break it up into part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4.
Exactly. So, I have an SEO plugin for WordPress. And it recommends that you have no fewer than 300 words. But you don't want to go crazy over that either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it depends on your audience too. Like you said, the mild readers, but if you're doing a scientific journal or something like that, then the people and your audience are going to buy into it, and they're going to be willing to read something. They're going to be willing to read those convoluted, long.
Yeah.
And so it all depends on your audience.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But those audiences are few and far between.
Yeah.
Unless it's specialized.
Yeah.
I feel like SEO, like the search engine optimization stuff, that basically lays out, if you're going to write an article, you want to hit 4-5 big words. So when somebody Googles whatever topic your article is about on Google, you will be higher up because you're hitting these metrics.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a good thing as far as driving web traffic, but I kind of wonder too whether something like that is just dulling information, because everybody's going to play after what's popular at the time. You know what I mean? Do you think that's has any sort of notion of kind of the thing feeding
Again,
itself?
it depends on their purpose. If you're researching something, like when I researched Thunderwells, the actual Thunderwells is part of the book.
Yeah.
There's surface things you can find, and then there's more in depth. So it really depends on what the person is going to pick, what's their level of what they need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So many people go, what's the first thing? They go to Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Is that great? It's okay.
It's a good starting.
And
it's a
you
good
can
jumping
look at
off
the sources down there, but there's other better sources.
Yeah. I think SEO, when you're using something like that, which is a plugin that says, okay, here are the points that you need to hit, it's less of a handbook and more of a guide.
Yeah.
You don't have to have an H2, a heading 2 that has your keyword in it. You don't have to. Does it help your SEO? Sure. But if that's not in the scope of what you're writing about, then don't put it in there. There are a lot of times where a good case in point is a review. I reviewed Filmstro, which was a software where you could kind of create your own music for movies, short films, whatever. That I had different bullet points that could be broken up with headings.
Mm-hmm.
A review you can break up with headings. But if you're just telling a story about a Bulbasaur,
Mm-hmm.
you don't need a bunch of headings in that. You
Yeah.
don't need different size fonts to run through that. You're telling a story. So
Sometimes you'll be surprised what people, at least I am, what people have an interest in and what people read. I did an article probably about 10, 12 years ago on types of characters, flat characters, round characters, dynamic, static, stock.
yeah.
And I have gotten requests from different schools to use it. I've had people email me with further questions about it.
Oh, wow.
I've had one girl from Australia just emailed me about 2 weeks ago, and based on that, she wanted me to answer questions for one of her papers.
Oh,
She
wow.
had to do
Yeah.
a research thing. So you never know what people are going to, it all depends on their purpose and what they want. It was a kind of in-depth article, but it wasn't like it wasn't real long. It just picked like the top 10 or the 10 most common types of characters.
So do you think, because I know you had mentioned, I think you mentioned this before we started recording, with your upcoming book, do you have a title or a working title for it?
Yeah, I've got, it's Magic Monsters, Maces, and Magic, and it's going to be called Outpost, like :
Okay.
Outpost.
So
And the game that it's based on is the one I made up, Monsters, Maces, and Magic.
Monsters, Maces, and Magic.
Now,
I like the title too. I would definitely.
So
play
that's
going to
be
Monsters, Maces, and is it going to be a
the
series?
end title? Is that or
Monsters, Maces, and Magic : and then the next book would be Monsters, Maces, and Magic. Instead of Outpost, whatever the next thing is.
Okay, so this is going to be your next series then.
Yeah, I think so. And so then I'm just going to have 3 series. I'm not going to start anymore. I'm not going to do standalone books probably for a while.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so my point with what I was asking you there and kind of the Google SEO stuff we were talking about too, was it a conscious decision to write a book based off of this because these books have become more popular? Would you say they have? Like with the idea of the characters being translated or characters being put into this world. Transported. There we go. That's the word I wanted. Is that a conscious decision for you ever as an author? Like, hey, these types of stories seem to be hotter right now. Maybe I should throw my hat into the ring.
Yeah, I think there's some of that because, you want people to read what you write. You also write what you would like. I think a lot of authors do write what they'd like to see up on the shelf or, metaphorically on the shelf, the electronic shelf too, if they hadn't written it themselves. I had read books like this back in the late 80s and stuff. So this isn't a new genre. It's been around a long time. There's like one that was even before that, 3 Hearts and 3 Lions, that is basically a Vietnam War vet or something like that gets put into a magical world.
Oh, okay.
So it's old.
Well, would you even consider, was it Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court, the Mark Twain book? That's sort of
like it too.
In the same thing, right?
It's kind of along the same way. It's a different variant, but yeah. And so it's something that I thought I could write. I thought it would be something of interest. It was easy for me to write since I've played role-playing games.
Yeah.
And so you have the good background for it, because I think if somebody hadn't played, it would be really hard to do if you didn't have very much experience in it. Just like if, you play a lot of video games, you could probably write one of those much better because you've played in various video games. Try to imagine yourself trying to write one of those books if you'd never played a video game other than Pong.
Yeah. It would look like...
You'd watch other people, you'd heard about it, but you wouldn't know the nuances and little funny things and stuff like that.
It would be like any episode you watch of like CSI or NCIS when they meet somebody who's a hacker. Mm-hmm. And they're just, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. They're just tapping on the keyboard and you see like matrix lines and it's nothing like what computers actually are.
Yeah. Yeah, you do half of that hacking with a mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not constantly typing.
Slap a keyboard.
Just
and the thing is, because you can poke fun at it, like the little gnome guy, he carries around a cudgel and he runs up and he hits somebody, and because a healer, he's a gnome healer, he doesn't hit very well. He hits somebody, he thinks, man, that's going to be a crushing blow, and just kind of nicks him. He says, man, I must have rolled a 1 for damage.
Yeah.
So are they aware of the skeleton of the game that runs through? And does that factor in?
Others. So some of them know, like, okay, this is what we got to do, or this is what we got to watch out for. Like the young junior high kid kind of knows the game because he's played it.
Yeah.
And the guy sitting there thinking, man, I'm following what a junior high kid says. Yeah. Okay, I got to do it because he knows.
Yeah.
Because it kind of a little bit of a role reversal. I mean, how many high school or college sophomores are going to be following what a junior high kid says they ought to do?
Yeah.
Not very many.
Are they able to manipulate the rules? No.
Not that they've been able to figure out. It's just the way it is.
Okay.
I mean, I guess if you're talking about manipulate, use the rules to their advantage, that's fine. Yeah, but they can't
not a tapping into the matrix sort of thing with I know how these roles work.
No, I can't change my role, or I can't. But they know, for example, they kind of make a joke like how people pull their swords out. You can't really do that with a long sword in real life. They kind of, the one guy points out, he says, you couldn't really do that, but you just can. You notice how you're wearing that shield on your back all the time? It doesn't bother you.
Yeah.
It's just the way games are, because in a video game, it's like that too.
Because most people throw the fatigue rules out the window because it's a pain in the ass to track.
Yeah. But this gets called in a little bit because they can't carry as much because they do, but so there's a balance in the reality and stuff. So, but they understand about how the game mechanics work.
Okay.
So they understand, there's better spells that you can have
Yeah.
because you can do this and this and this.
Are you going comedy with it? Is it a
There's
comedy
a little bit
book?
of humor with it, but it's not comedy.
Okay.
It's not like, what is that? Robert Bevins we talked about.
Oh,
Robert
Critical
Bevan,
Failures,
Critical
yeah.
Failures. Yeah, it's not real humor like that. And his humor is kind of coarse humor some.
Yeah.
Mine is kind of funny humor.
Ooh.
in
Shots fired.
Not that kind of humor. I know what you're saying. And sorry, Robert, if you watch this, like you'll watch it. But his humor is often a different way, and mine is kind of what I can't write humor like him.
Yeah.
And I listen to some of his stuff and read it, and I think it's funny, but I couldn't write that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is kind of like the little junior high guy. He was helping the one girl roll up her character. She's kind of like a sorority girl. So he's like, you're going to be this elf and you're going to be buxom and stuff. And,
Yeah.
And then, she's like trying to think of a name, and she's like, oh, I'll pick White Ash. And he's like, really? They're going to be like calling you white trash. You don't want to pick that name.
Yeah.
And she like looks around and the one guy says, yeah, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So, those kind of things. So she
Yeah.
says, so she's like, okay, so white birch is out of it too. So that there's a little bit of that humor in there,
Yeah.
but those
It's a little more subtle.
it's just what I can write as funny. So maybe it's subtle, maybe it's not. I mean, being called white trash isn't subtle.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But I know what you're saying. But his humor is just totally different than mine. And you've read my books. I don't have a lot of humor in a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not what I write, but this is a little bit different book.
I'd say the humor that I've read in your books is more dialogue based, and it's more of like, from what I've read anyway, the characters are commenting on a situation in kind of a funny aside way.
Yeah.
Whereas his books are full on slapstick. Almost.
Yeah, his are slapstick and they're just funny.
Mm-hmm.
And he writes short stories just on and the title.
He just pumps. It's insane that guy just pumps out as many stories as he does.
Creative
It's
and
insane.
stuff, and he goes with it. But a lot of my books, it's situational humor.
Yeah.
That as a reader will get it, as the characters get it because of situations they come through. In Flying Hawk, it doesn't have a lot, but they start poking fun at Ruse. When they say, "How long do you think it's going to take before he says this to her?"
Yeah. Yeah. Ruse was. Gosh, he might have been my favorite character in Flank Hawk.
Yep. He was kind of that steady guy who...
Yeah, he's the stalwart one that you could always depend on, but at the same time, because of his belief structure and the world that he lived in was in such odds that he was the odd man out. And it was very interesting.
Yep.
And that did lead to a lot of funny instances to me, even though for some readers it may not be a very funny thing, but to me it struck me as very humorous to have him in this world where he was very much this kind of
where magic didn't approve of it, so to speak.
Yeah.
It didn't work on him,
and at the same time being kind of awkward because of that, but being the reliable one, and then just turning around and being a straight badass.
Yeah, and the thing was, what I liked was the way he and Lily ended bonding eventually, because they wouldn't, but they both had to grow their own ways towards that, because you could see why she wouldn't like him and wouldn't trust him, and obviously why he didn't like her and trust her. But, so that was something that grew, and I think, those are kind of important things that happen in novels. Yeah. And that friendship echoes in the books beyond.
And it went really well too. Like, I mean, I was pretty close to in tears by the end of it. So yeah, because of that relationship that was so hard fought for.
Yeah.
So.
It wasn't something that just happened. And I don't like that in books where people just click all the time.
Yeah.
Hey, you just click. It does, especially if there's something that would rub you the wrong way, your deep felt beliefs would rub you the wrong way. But then again, he was probably sort of closed-minded, and so was she in her own ways, because of their life experiences were so different.
Yeah. Do you have any more?
No, I was just letting you guys have a conversation. I was trying to figure out what to do, so I was looking back as you guys were talking.
Hey, you haven't read Flying Hawk
to
yet?
try to I have read a little bit of it. I haven't got very far though.
Yeah, that may not be your kind of book.
I enjoyed what I read of it. I don't remember why at the time I didn't get any further with it. I went a couple chapters in.
It was
it's a big military conflict book.
That may have been
what the start off was. You had a rough time getting through that first hump.
Because there's a lot of military talk that I don't quite understand, I think is what put me off of it.
I had a completely different experience because I had it read to me. So, you know, it just kind of...
I know you had Audible, but I just love the idea of you laying in bed at night and you've hired somebody to just read you the book.
Oh my God, old school Audible. That would be awesome.
It is very cool to have somebody read your own books to you, but I think it's I do it now a lot because I just don't have time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm village council, I'm a teacher, I'm a parent and a husband, and I'm trying to be an author too. And like right now on the way down, I was listening to the Great Lectures series on the Civil War.
Yeah.
You know, just because I find that interesting. I used to do Civil War reenactment, and I'm learning stuff that I knew before but just kind of forgot about.
Yeah.
And then learning new stuff.
I have not started. The second book in that series was Bloodsword. And then the third one is Soulforge. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have them both downloaded, but I haven't started on Bloodsword yet.
Well, probably because you're busy too. And some of the stuff that you do is different. And I don't, your schedule, a lot of this stuff, I know you said you listen and watch, but if you're doing video editing and things, you can't listen to something else.
Yeah, I can't see those shows, they're watching those people game and stuff. I don't have to pay attention to it. It's almost background noise. Whereas something like that, I want to throw myself into the story. I want
nonfiction is even harder to listen to audiobook for me. And the thing is, Brandon, you might be, there's different people are different types of learners. Mm-hmm. Some people are the tactile, some people are the auditory, some people are the ones that have to read.
Yeah.
And so that makes a difference too. You might just prefer to read, and that's just your best way of gaining information.
Yeah.
The most efficient.
It's easier for me to read a book because as soon as I flip it open and I see where I am, I'm like, oh, okay. And if I flip back a couple pages and be like, okay, that's just what happened. Where audiobooks, predominantly where I'm going to be listening to them is in the car, and not really going to have my phone out backing and forthing if I forget where I am and stuff.
Yeah, the cool thing about Audible is you can hit that 30 seconds back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's got a little 30-second back. And
I've never actually tried Audible, really.
You should.
Audible.com.
Yep.
They've actually started advertising on television, I've seen.
Yeah.
Audible's taken off somewhere.
It's owned by Amazon.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah.
They can just because Audible's every podcast I listen to has an Audible ad.
Yeah, and you can actually go to the
Oh, so we have an Audible ad too?
Yeah. Yeah, there will be a link in the description.
I had no idea. I didn't know we did Audible.
Yeah, I do Audible on occasion.
Oh.
I have we're not supposed affiliate marketing is like Fight Club. You don't talk about affiliate marketing, but because Amazon owns Audible, and do they own Kindle too? Google.
The Kindle is theirs.
Yeah,
the Kindle is theirs.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Do they own Goodreads too?
I don't know. I don't think so. But then you have the Amazon Prime and the video stuff through that. But yeah, I'll cycle through that. Sometimes I'll use, if we talk a lot about some movies, the ad down at the bottom, because I always throw an ad down at the bottom, will be that.
You're going to upload this to YouTube, but just all of this is going to be blanked out by Amazon.
Yeah.
Somehow they're going to get their long Amazonian fingers in there.
Yeah. Just, well, I don't know. YouTube keeps them out a little bit, so. They're two major companies, with Google owning YouTube. So the affiliate stuff that you can do through YouTube, like putting links in the actual video, like where you can click on the link in the top here to buy a shirt that just popped out. Yeah,
that one.
Yeah, that one right there. Yeah. Oh, now it's gone. It's gone. It's no, I'm not.
Wait, can you make it float out of my hand real quick?
No, I can't, because you can't do that anymore.
If the link doesn't float out of my hand, Remington's a terrible editor.
You can't. No, you can't. It doesn't work that way anymore. They got rid of that. YouTube got rid of that. But anyway, like I can put represent, which is the people who have our shirts, but I can't do anything through Amazon because they don't have a deal.
Yeah.
because they're like, we're big companies and we don't want to work together because really, why would we have camaraderie and make money?
Well, because then you get into mega corporations.
Whatever.
And
If
Terry, as a
there's
fan of
only one
sci-fi, I think you also
corporation.
know that mega corporations, nothing good ever comes out of mega corporations.
Unless you're a CEO.
That's true. So just become
But
the
usually
CEO
by
of
the
either
end of
Google or
by the end of
Amazon.
the movie, you're dead. So
Yeah.
you lived
Yeah.
a good life for a while. And
Or
then-
you've been dead since the beginning and you were a robot.
Or you were the master computer.
Yeah. Oh, was it an episode? Did you watch The Twilight Zone? Did you watch a lot of The Twilight Zone?
when I was a kid, I did. I've watched some of them.
There was, I can't remember if it was The Twilight Zone or a movie, but it's an episode or a movie or something where they're on this alien planet and they keep getting words from the elders. The elders are like, you have to do this, you have to die at this certain time. And then the main character finally works his way into the cave where the elders are, and it's just like this giant supercomputer that's
No, I
just
don't
blinking
remember that.
lights.
I might have seen it.
It means nothing. Okay.
Good story, Brandon.
Okay, so how do you want to wrap up? Because I don't have any more questions as far as what's coming out goes.
Yeah, I sent the rough draft into my publisher. Like I was telling you, we'll see if it's something that Griffinwood Press is interested in. Because
And that's okay to leave in here?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, no, that's fine. No, because what they need to do is decide if it's something that would fit with what they would publish, if they think that they can make money, if it'll sell,
Yeah.
and if it's well written too.
Yeah.
You know, it's like anything else with a publisher. Sometimes, you know, people ask some of the publishers that passed up on J.K. Rowling's books.
Yeah.
And some of them will say, well, darn, we missed it. But a couple of them had said, really? We wouldn't have been able to market it. It wouldn't have taken off if we had published it. It wasn't right for us. It wouldn't have been right for the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we feel bad that we missed out on the millions,
Right.
but it wouldn't have been millions if we would have done it.
Yeah. That's a valid argument. A publisher has to know its audience just as well as a
Mhm.
writer does. Yeah.
So say you get your manuscript back from your publisher and your publisher says it's not something we're interested in. There's no changes that we offer. It's just for whatever reason, this is not something we'd be interested in at all.
Mm-hmm.
Are you tied in enough with the publisher, because you've used Griffinwood Press for all of your books so far, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you tied in enough that it would be a contentious issue if you were to shop around for another publisher as far
Nope.
as they goes?
No, I mean, if they reject it, then they don't want it. And they're
Yeah.
okay with that. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're saying, we don't want it.
Yeah.
Go ahead and send it somewhere else. So, and then the other option is self-publishing. That's not really what I'm interested in, because that's a whole new skill set that I would have to get.
Yeah.
Or I would have to hire an editor, which I would end up doing, and
Mhm.
hire a cover artist, which I would end up doing. And, then I would either have to hire somebody to format it, to distribute it, and to do
Mhm.
all the other stuff, which
You'd also
is-
have to hire me to voice over and do the audio version.
yeah, that's it.
You're
But,
going to do every
that's
character?
that's
Yep.
something that a publisher does, and that's why they earn money.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so the publisher has to get that money back. At least they at least have to feel that they've got a good shot of at least breaking even or making money off of it.
Yeah.
So they have to, the ISBN, the cover art, the editing, all that stuff costs money, and it costs time for the publisher, because if they're hiring people or doing stuff with my book and they're marketing my book, that means that takes away from what they can do
Yeah.
with other books.
Yeah.
Are you, I guess I don't want to jinx anything, but are you concerned at all with this book? Is this book far enough outside of the realm of what you normally write as far as subject goes that you're overly concerned? I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit
No,
of
I'm not
concern when you send it to
not-
your publisher
No,
that like,
I
are they
mean,
going to like
You
it?
always are like, well, you send them the best you got. I always try, I don't send off and say, this is good enough. They'll take
Yeah.
it type
Yeah.
thing. I try and write a really good story because I want it to see the light of day. I want people to read it.
Yeah.
But you develop a thicker skin too in publishing. You can't be hurt or upset. It's a professional relationship.
Yeah.
I know the person who owns Griffinwood Press, David Wood. I know that he's going to be honest with me, and I think he wants me to be honest with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he's going to tell me I don't think that it would work, and this is why.
Yeah.
And I would accept it. Or he says, hey, I think we'll run with it, and that's because he thinks that it's going to work.
Yeah.
He might be willing to say, I'm not so sure, but we'll give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Would a publisher, not even just in this case, but just in general, would a publisher ever get a hold of you and say, hey, I think it would work, but you need to change the third act?
They might. And
Okay.
then that's something that you would have to decide.
Whether
Are you willing to do that or not?
Okay.
Next question, I guess, kind of on the tail of that. If they say, if Griffinwood were to say, we're not interested in it, would they shout out a different publisher that they think would be interested?
They might. They might put me in contact with another publisher that they know or an individual that they know. Or, I could go through the other route. And I know a few small publishers, too, that I could contact. And so I have an in with them. But you could also go through the old-fashioned route. It's something
Just
where
shopping
you just send it, and then you work on writing something else.
Yeah.
You don't sit and wait, look at your inbox, because you'll never get anything done.
Yeah. So you're planning on or hoping to have this as a series then?
Yeah. What my plan is, since I can write it fast, is what I told my current publisher is, I wrote this, then I want to finish up a novella I was working on.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a co-written one. And then I'm going to go back and I want to finish this one up and write a second novel in the series so that a couple of them can be released relatively quickly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things that I think has held me back a little bit is I'm really a one book a year author because I have so much else going on.
Right.
This is something I can write a little bit faster.
Yeah.
And during the summer or during the winter, I can write, finish up the science fiction novel that I have started.
Yeah.
For the third in the Cracks War. Then I can go back and I can hammer out a couple of these pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah.
If it works out.
Yeah. That would be a cool way to diversify and get a lot more.
Yeah. I found that with
moving.
the science fiction and the fantasy, it hasn't crossed over as much.
Yeah.
I have some core readers that'll read both.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they only read the fantasy and I'm not science fiction.
Yeah.
And so I'm just not going to read it.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
So that about wraps up the show then. Terry, thanks again for coming down. Where will we be able to find you if anybody wants to come visit you? Do you have any appearances or conventions or anything that you're doing?
Yeah, I have quite a few things lined up, actually. It's summer,
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a few things already, but I've got Art Affair on the Square in Urbana, Ohio. I'll be in the literary tent with Champaign County Library with a bunch of other local authors, and that's on the 15th.
Okay.
And then I've got book signing at Gathering Volumes in Perrysburg, Ohio. And then I have the second Monday authors event on the August 14th, and that is at the Centerville Public Library. And then I've got the Geek Fest that's in October 21st.
Okay.
And that is at the Delaware Libraries in Delaware, Ohio. I also just signed up. I'm going to be at the River City Comic-Con, and I think that's September 17th.
Yeah, I think so.
And then I also just was invited to on August 9th, and I'm still getting the details on it. And that is August 9th. It's at the Shelby County Library in Sydney, Ohio, and they're opening up a new branch, and so or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll be there. And all this stuff you can find from my website at the events page.
Okay.
If you just go to and you can put wait, I'll be like Brandon. It's not flying out of my hand. It's just over Brandon's face. My website.
It'll be down in the description.
Okay.
But you can also put it there. Come on.
I can't. They took that out. I can't do that on YouTube.
If it's not above his hand just now,
the last 20 last 20
can you just
seconds
put
is
up,
all
I can't put anything here.
Yes. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll just. There's no link. Check the description below.
Thanks for leading me astray, Brandon. I trusted you. Remember, we go back to that thing about authors, and once you lose trust in them.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And you're a podcaster, and I trusted in you, and now I just can't trust anything you say anymore.
All the while, there's text above that says these jerks don't know how to internet. Making a whole lot of work for me now.
Yeah. I love throwing that stuff in sometimes.
Just to see how much I do.
Go ahead and put this soundtrack in there, Remington. I mean, 90% of the time, you're like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. And then I'll turn around and do it.
Yeah. As far as shout outs go, while Remington's pulling up the script, the only comments we had on our Facebook page were from you, Terry. So I will read you your own comments.
Wonderful. I'm so surprised.
It's Terryception.
We'll just pretend Terry's not here.
Okay.
So we got one comment this week from the illustrious Viscount Terry W Ervin II, and Terry says, I think Harvard just added a PhD program in computerology to extend beyond the undergraduate degree, a BS in computerology. Okay. Now one can become a doctor computerologist instead of a computerologist.
I laughed so hard at that. I really did.
I can't figure out why Facebook keeps underlining with a red squiggly line, computerologist, computerology, like they aren't legitimate terms. Go figure. I don't know. There's obviously something in the mainframe. In the mainframe of Facebook there.
The Facebook dictionary.
The matrices, the vertices. And thanks, Brandon, for wearing the genre shotgun shirt. I'm sure your NASA coworkers are jealous. You would not believe how many times. They do a lot of hazing there. They try to shove people into rockets, shoot them into space and stuff. NASA's hilarious.
Shotgun on there, they'd be a little bit hesitant messing with you.
Actually, surprisingly, 99% of people at NASA, gun owners. Oh, okay. Open carry. They're constantly
ray guns.
They're constantly firing
rail guns, lasers.
Maybe I should get a line of novel promotion pajamas that Remington could give away with each mattress sold. Yeah. Just think how many people would see them worn by Walmart shoppers. Not to knock on your customer base, Rim, just thought the connection with night garments and going to Walmart shopping was funny.
Yeah, no,
but I mean,
hey, all walks.
Everybody needs a mattress.
Everybody needs a mattress. That's right. We also had on the YouTubes, the Schmo kicked in and said howdy ho. So that's she I guess watched the video. So
which one of you is the ho?
That.
Okay.
It'll say above my head.
I'm not doing that. Also, Terry commented on the YouTube one too.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he's just he comments on everything.
I didn't know that Schmomo News had a YouTube. That's what I pretty much commented.
She doesn't really do anything on it, though, does she?
No, not
recently.
Really. No, she does not like being in front of camera. Mm-hmm. She did
an okay job, except for she complained about the lighting, and I could understand that. But I watched a couple of them, and she does pretty well.
Yeah, I mean this was years back, and I offered. I was like, hey, if you want to do them, and she's just like,
she said, stop calling me.
She said, leave me alone, you creep.
How did you get this number?
We're not friends, okay? Cliff Barnes chimed in. He's one of the co-hosts of the Kapow, the pop cultured podcast.
Our sort of on again, off again mortal enemy. Our will they, won't they? They're the Mr. Big to our Carrie.
Thanks for recording the conversation about switching to video and show goals. It's something I've given much thought on myself with KPP. Also, you two don't know shit about sports. The Chargers have already moved to LA.
And then some other sports stuff.
Chargers, is that like for batteries or something?
It's a Matador term.
Oh, okay. I've got to think a stadium in Cali weather draws more consistent money, as concerts and other sports can use the venue all year round.
The Chargers do have the little electric bolt.
Oh, so they're actually like electrical chargers.
Oh, so it's electric.
At least years ago they did. I haven't followed the NFL in quite a while.
Yeah, and I after that conversation, I thought of a lot of different devil's advocate things for and then for a sports venue, and also for convention center as well. So
I mean, my whole thing is that there's so many sports venues. San Diego, I mean, do you think San Diego is known for Comic-Con? I mean, San Diego and Comic-Con kind of go hand in hand now, right? It is, but it would be a big loss for them.
It would be, but loss of sports teams is a huge hit to the economy too.
Yeah.
You have not only the merchandise, but you have people that travel there. You've got hotels like the other one, but you have restaurants and everything else that's around there. And a football team, let's say they have 16 games plus preseason. So you're looking at the event showing up, and then if they go to the playoffs and stuff, you could have 20 events there.
Yeah.
And then the stadiums can be used for other things, concerts and other events also.
Yeah. And a convention center, I mean, you don't really know how many convention centers a place has.
But they've got a big in with the Comic-Con. I mean, that is one of the ones huge to go to.
But I mean, a convention center is used for all sorts of different things other than just a con. You know, they're used for business meetings, they're used for trade shows, they're used for all sorts of different things.
What if you mash them together and have the Chargers playing in cosplay?
Yeah.
And then you have like Chris Hardwick of The Nerdist calling the shots.
Uh-huh.
You have Chris Hemsworth as the referee.
Okay. I can get down
Make
with
it
that.
Comic-Con football all year round.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be like, what was it that Vince McMahon put out?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
That like
The
extreme
weird
football
that
thing.
only lasted a few years.
Yeah, it was pretty awful and very forgettable.
But I'm better than Vince McMahon, so I think we can make this work. You will clearly front the money, but we'll get it figured out.
Yep. Larry also commented, "You guys are doing well," and that YouTube thing. Well, you've got the faces for podcasting.
Harsh, but okay.
To which I replied, "I'll have you know, my mother thinks I'm very handsome." So that's it for the shout outs. If you have any questions or comments, or you'd like to hear yourself on air, you can call us at 978 DU-OGRES. That's 978-386-4737. Huh? Yeah, see, I got it. Yeah. Also, be sure to do the Facebook things and email us and duelingogres@gmail.com. And I don't have the whole thing memorized after all these years.
Yeah.
I still
you've changed it quite a bit.
I have.
If you want to write for the podcast, because after that comment, Larry's articles will no longer appear on the website.
That's right. He's now banned and is no longer our RPG consult. Or what did I call him?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. He has an official title that I've already thrown out the window because of that. Just kidding, Larry. You can write whenever you want. It's fine. Just come back. Larry, come back. You can blame it all on me. Is that awkward enough for you?
What's funny is we've been DMCA'd for less.
This is true.
It's amazing the amount of things that we'll put on. We put on a video, not to go off on a tangent here for a second.
Yeah.
We put out a video, the first actual video we did on YouTube, where we're reviewing a movie trailer, and the audio for the movie trailer got flagged. And so we had not a takedown notice, but YouTube will do a thing where like these companies have bots that troll for their audio, and then it'll automatically flag our video. So if we had ads on it, any ad revenue automatically goes to the company that put out this movie trailer.
Yeah.
And we've gotten flagged on so many things. Like he put in a snippet of a Queen song and we got flagged off of that. So if he sung well enough, literally we would get DMCA'd for the rights to that song.
And I'm an excellent singer.
So you were just kind of sandbagging it there so you didn't get flagged.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Wait, you didn't think it sounded like the real thing?
I know you could do much better if you really had your heart into it.
He's real good. He's real good.
That's a man who has negotiated some angry ladies in his life.
All right. Terry, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming down. We appreciate it. Oh, it is always a pleasure to have you on every time.
Well, you guys are fun, and I'll tell you what, I do enjoy your podcast. I listen to most of them, even the ones that sometimes I kind of glaze over because it's not my topic.
Yeah,
because you do change up. You don't have just one thing solid.
Yeah, and that's always the hardest thing is not having a show that has a driving topic behind it.
When we did the E3 episode about the whole video game convention, I was even telling Remington, I was like, well, this is one Terry's going to skip.
Yeah.
Have you guys thought about switching to My Little Pony or something?
Yeah.
We did a My Little Pony
We did a My Little Pony
and it was
episode.
excruciating to listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't use like the song in music or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Music
Friendship is
Have to
magic.
sing it yourself, right?
Yeah. All right, so that wraps up the podcast. Until next week, Ogres, keep your clubs blunt.
And your tusks sharp.
Good night.